So, as I was saying, and this is a Saturday, it's a certification Saturday. Um, on Saturday, what people usually do is spend their time with their families, have some fun, etc. But I really want to thank everyone for being here and actually taking part in this event and trying to learn a bit more about Microsoft certification and even to improve yourselves and uh, get prepared to take some exams, some certifications, and hopefully that will improve your professional life in the future. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is I will actually talk about all of the things people are usually afraid to talk about. So I'll talk about bots, I'll talk about cognitive services, and to a much lesser extent, because this is not really the focus of this session, I'll actually briefly mention machine learning. And I won't talk about just one certification course. I'll actually talk about three, or if you prefer, four certification exams and certifications. So we'll see what happens. So first of all, this is my cat, and my cat should be here somewhere. Every time I start to talk about Azure, she actually shows up and she says hello. So hopefully this will be the case at some point in time. In this case, I usually do a lot of crazy sessions about this, but feel free to join. Some of these are online and they are about completely different topics, all of them. I do have one which is focused on machine learning. It is online in some conferences. And because this is not the focus of the session today, but still a bit of part of AI-900, I do recommend that you also have a look at this session here for machine learning is full of stars and Azure Story, and actually get information about how to do machine learning in Azure. This is very simple. If you don't have any background in machine learning, that's also fine. I also explained that in this session. So just go online, try to find it. There are links to videos on YouTube and places like that. If you can't find it, please let me know. Send me an email or a message, and I will give you some links. I have this in English. Most of these sessions I have in English, but some of them I might have in Portuguese as well. Any Portuguese speaking people here? So just say hello out of curiosity. Now, a few years ago, something like 40 years ago in the 80s, yeah, I know. There was okay, two people. Oh, great. Okay, no, sorry, not Greek. I'm afraid I don't have any sessions in Greek. I love Greek foods. I love to go to Greece, but sadly not Greek. It's a bit difficult for me to speak Greek. It's Greek to me, but I do love the country. I do love the people, but no, very difficult. Most of the sessions I have are only in Portuguese and English. Oh, Armando, welcome as well. Um, we have two Ricardos here as well. But anyway, Portuguese and English are easy languages for me to present sessions. I can speak a few other languages as well and maybe interact for questions and answers. So feel free to ask in those languages like Spanish, French, Italian, maybe, but not to do a full session. This is just too difficult for me. Anyway, as I was saying, about 40 years ago, there was a session, a series called Knight Rider. You probably heard of this. It was a session where there was a talking car, maybe a car ahead of its time, and that car was a bit how do I say it? Well, original, because normal cars are usually stay in the ground, but the objective of this car was to always be flying around, just jumping all over the place. And if you remember this, I forgot to change the date here. Oh, my fault. Oh, the date is different. Oh, okay. Please don't notice this is copy pastes. Okay, it happens to best of us. Anyway, this is me. My name is André Melancia. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer for a few years now, and this is my photo last year. In the meantime, I had the possibility of getting a different haircut, but this one was done like this. So everyone is at home. Everyone is getting weird haircuts. This one was actually in person because things are better now in Portugal. So this was maybe a week ago, something like that. So now I have a normal haircut. Anyway, let's get to the interesting things. And before I actually go into cognitive services, I need to explain how this corresponds to the certification exam. I won't go into a lot of details about the exam process, etc. I know a lot of people already talked about this just before, but I will mention this exam and a few other exams as well. So one of them is the AI-900. This is the fundamentals exams for AI, and this gives you obviously the Azure AI fundamentals. One single exam, very easy. Pricing is actually a bit cheaper than normal exams. $99, 99 euros, something like that. So it is a bit cheaper than normal exams, which are 165. However, if for some reason you are impacted by COVID, etc., you can actually schedule it for $15 or your currency's equivalents. Okay, so this is perfectly viable. Anyway, there is some outlines about all of the things which are covered in the exam. I won't go into a lot of details about this because I don't think that this is the best use of our time at this moment. I just want to mention that there is a details here about all of the things that you need to do. By the way, there was an update, or there will be an update in sometime soon. So what you get here is exam below gives you the changes after April 23rd. Okay, and most of these are okay. So things like all of the details that you see here, etc. We'll talk about some of this. One of the biggest things that are covered in this exam is about ethics, responsible AI, etc. And these are mostly focused on more, let's call it, okay, on more theoretical things. I will respond to some of the things in the chat just in a bit. Let me just finish this out first. But anyway, I will focus this session today on cognitive services. There is a long list about cognitive services, but there are some links, and I will share some links at the end of the session. Okay, so if you are here, just let me wait until the actual end of the session, and then I will share some links with you. And because this is Teams, your links will be with you if you watch the session, so you can come back a few minutes later. If you have to go to a different session, you can still come back a few minutes later and check some of the links. And some of the links are for things like responsible AI, etc. These are usually easy to get. Anyway, AI-900 basically covers two different detailed courses. One of them is the AI-100 and the AI-102, which are the same, but one is more recent than the other, and also the DP-100, which is all about machine learning. The first one is about cognitive services and bots. The other one is about machine learning, Azure machine learning specifically. Now, I won't go into a lot of details but my recommendation for all of the exams is always to go to all of these lists and cross out all of the ones that you've known already. And when you cross out every one of these, just go to the exam. If you feel that some of these things are too complicated for you to take in terms of a fundamentals exam, my recommendation is try some of the labs for DP100, AI100, or 102, which is the most recent one. And if you experiment with the labs on GitHub for those, and I will share the link now. Give me a second. Those I can share now. So this is for the exam, okay? The AI-900 exam. If you go to GitHub, Microsoft Learning, and you will have to find the AI, let's say AI 102, okay, which is already here. So AI engineer. You can also try the AI 100. Okay, this is also with slightly different labs, etc. You should also try the DP100, and DP100 actually has a weird name. So this is the current version. Okay, there were older versions of this which were archived as well. My recommendation is when you decide to take the exam, before that, try all of the labs in all of these courses that I'm listing. Okay, so these labs for AI 102, DP 100. So let me just recap this. So AZ 900s is your fundamentals. Oh, sorry, not AZ, yeah. AI, all the ways that you do have other kinds of fundamentals. You should always start there, of course. You have the AI 100s or AI 100 into which is all about cognitive services and bots. Okay. And let me just say that AI 100 is the old course, the old exam, still valid for a few months until the end of June. But you have the 102, which is the most recent one, still in beta. But if you are preparing to take it in 1 month or 2 months, something like that, currently you can take either two, okay? But you will not get the answer for this one immediately because this is still in beta. In 1 month or so, this will be in production, so you can take the exam and get the answer immediately. You also have, as I said, DP100s, which is all about Azure machine learning. Okay, and this is the important thing that you need to know about this. And fundamentals is a mix of the two exams together, obviously much more simple, but it is a mix of the other two together. Okay, so we will focus today on this. Okay, but if I have some time, I'll actually show you some machine learning. If not, there are a lot of videos that I provide online. Um, Exactly. So Julian is actually saying that AI 102 is more developer focused than AI 100, basically because all of the cognitive services are a bit more detailed in the labs. The other one only had one or two labs about the actual cognitive services. Everything else was mostly bots and with AI 102, you actually have a lot more details about all of the cognitive services. One of the things I should mention, and Julian's actually mentioned this, which is important, for DP100, this is mostly great for anyone who is a data scientists, okay? Not necessarily 100%. There is AutoML, which anyone can really use, but this is mostly for a developer, okay? So a developer, all you need to do to use these things here is to do actual programming. Bots are very easy to program, and they can use just something called the bot framework, which is basically a whole set of if clauses and things like that, and then connecting to cognitive services to do the intelligent part. And the cognitive part is also very easy. Why? Because these are basically web services, RESTs web services that you send. Let's say you send an image there to do things like face recognition, and then what you get back is a JSON content to tell you exactly what you saw in the image. So there was a person with a face. This person looked 50 years old, etc. And you have information about the eyes, about the nose, about the face, etc. So all the information is easy for anyone who's a developer but knows nothing about machine learning to actually do. Okay, so we'll see some examples of this, and if time permits, we will do more. If time doesn't permit, we'll do slightly less, but let's see what happens. In any case, ask questions. This is why I'm here. By the way, if someone wants to buy a Knight Rider KITT, an actual car, Armando actually put one for sale, a link there. So this is fun in the chat. Okay, not advertising anyone, just saying that this is a fun situation. But then again, probably the car doesn't have all of the necessary security features we have now. But you can also build your own. I've seen people that add a lot of IoT into the mix and put some of those things in the car. I haven't really tried myself. To be honest, this is something that I would love to do, but I would have to spend a lot of time at home next to my car and actually add all of these things. But just out of curiosity, and because we are talking about this now, just out of curiosity, if you decide to go to AZ 220, which is Azure IoT Developer, let me share this with you as well. Feel free to try Azure IoT, which is also great for any developer. You don't need to know much about electronics, but if you are building a car, that is definitely something to look at. I should mention that this one is a bit much more complicated than the other ones, but you can interact this with cognitive services and things like that to actually create the car itself. Okay, now let's do some interesting things and talk about all of the other things. Oh, by the way, let me just copy this into the chat just in case. So you get a copy of this. Okay, just in case. Okay, so let's explain cognitive services first. I was mentioning IoT, but this is perfectly possible. So you have some robots, you have some cell phones, you have some normal computers. Uh, okay, for a functional professional, someone that doesn't have any technical background or experience, but highly interested in bots and cognitive services. Okay, I have an answer for that. Give me a second. Okay, I do have an answer for that. In terms of cognitive services, you can use cognitive services in things like Power BI. So if you probably noticed, if you are using things like Power BI Desktop, on the top right of the ribbon somewhere, you have things like text analytics, machine learning, etc. So you can use that without knowing anything about programming, anything about the actual cognitive services themselves. Just consume it from a user's point of view. That's perfectly possible. I'm not going to mention licensing at this moment, but it's not that bad. You can also use bots, not as bots here in Azure, but if you use something called Power Virtual Agents, you can actually use Power Virtual Agents, which use the same technology as the bots I'm going to mention just now, using the bot framework. You can play around with it using the bot composer, or you can do it online. Just go to powerva.microsoft.com, if I'm not mistaken. If I am wrong, please someone correct me in the chat. But something like powerva.microsoft.com. Okay, Power Virtual Agents. Okay, I do have a session for that online somewhere, and at the end of the course, let me search for all of these links, and I will share these links in this track for the event as just before. Yeah, okay. So Ricardo was actually sharing about Power Virtual Agents online. If you go here, you have powervirtualagents.microsoft.com, and then once you accept it, you go to something called powerva.microsoft.com, or is it Office 365, something like that, and then you actually do hands-on things and create the bots in a graphical interface. So technically, you don't have to be anyone expert in development or in anything technical to be able to use bots. Any user will do it. In fact, a 10-year-old kid can actually do it as long as you know how to read and write. This is actually very easy. Okay, next question is knowledge of mathematics required to develop AI IoT. Okay, so two separate things. About AI using cognitive services, you don't need mathematics. These are pre-trained models in most cases, so all of these work really well without any kind of mathematical knowledge. You should know the basics. High school will be enough for most of these. But two different things. So for cognitive, you don't need to know that much more. For machine learning, and specifically Azure machine learning, you have two different options. You have AutoML, in which you honestly don't need to have that much knowledge. You should have an idea how things work, and just go online and search for my sessions on machine learning, and they will give you a very nice quick introduction. And if you need to do actual machine learning using Python, using R, in many cases, a developer will be able to do this because it's just 2 or 3 lines of code that you can copy paste. But if you want to fine tune things in terms of machine learning to actually get better accuracy in the machine learning training, in that case, you will need to have a bit more background in mathematics, a little more background in all of the, let's generically call it data science, okay, to be able to optimize some of these things. Because machine learning is actually very simple to use, and you get, let's say, you run AutoML and you get a result of 85% accuracy into a model that you generate. However, if you want to optimize that to 90% or 100, you'll never get 100%, but maybe 90%, 91%, 92%, you will need to have a bit more knowledge into preparing all of the data, to fine tune all of the data. And for that, you will need to have a bit more knowledge of mathematics, about statistics, and also about all of the algorithms that you are actually using, etc. For that, you will need a bit more knowledge. But most things in Azure are perfect because they will not require you to have all of that extensive knowledge. Anyone with a developer background should be able to do most of the things, at least not the advanced things in machine learning. Anyway, the next question, the same part of the question is IoT. So about IoT, one special thing with Azure IoT, this is not the focus of the course today, of course, but let me just mention this. With Azure IoT, the one that I've sent you in the link, you will need the focus of the course is about as soon as you receive things in the cloud and then you process things in the cloud. So you need to be a developer, and if you'd like, you need to send this over to things like Power BI. So you might want to be a data analyst to use the information, but that's the easy part, okay? However, if you are doing IoT properly, this is not just simulation. You actually have to have the hardware, and that would be things like, like here a Raspberry Pi and things like that. That would have to be these kind of devices, and to program these devices to get ins and outs in sensors and things like that, you will need some background in electronics. Okay, there are some basic examples online. You should try those. You don't need that much of an electronics background for that. But if you are developing a full solution, an electronics background would be very important. Okay. By the way, I should mention that Azure IoT actually sends things to devices as long as devices are operating system based, like Raspberry Pi or any other. I'm not mentioning Arduinos or small boards. I'm mentioning boards that actually have an operating system. You can deploy things into IoT Edge, in which you can do machine learning at the edge in IoT devices. You can do cognitive services in IoT devices as well, and this is fully controlled by Azure, so you don't have to have any knowledge on how to deploy this. You just go to the Azure portal and say, I want this, and things work. However, to interact, to route all of the inputs that you have from electronics all the way up to that, you will need a bit of knowledge. The course is there to help you with that, but you will still need the electronics part to get the information in. But some of you might be able to do this. It's not a lot to learn, to be honest. Getting started with Raspberry Pis and things like that, and the actual pins is not difficult. There are a lot of examples online, and from there on, you should be able to get things ready. But if you are doing a full IoT project, like professionally, you will need someone who knows extensively about electronics to actually fix problems like, power management, so it doesn't spend that much power, etc. Okay. Okay, so yeah, Julian is actually sharing a link here. So Microsoft Machine Learning kits for low with Raspberry Pi 4. So yeah, this is a great place to get you started, okay? And this is a bit more hardware based as well, so perfect. Thank you very much. Anyway, by the way, I haven't thanked Julian for inviting me. So Julian, thank you very much, and especially thank you for all of your help during this session. In previous sessions, in previous events, you also helped me out a lot by sharing links and things like that. So I do thank you a lot. This is actually improving the quality of the session a lot. For anyone seeing the video a bit later on, maybe I can click. Okay, maybe I can click this link. So 1 second, maybe I can click this link so that you can register the link here. So blogs, etc. So just copy this and okay. So this is the rest of the link. So maybe you can come here a bit later on because you will not have access to the chats. So maybe later on you can have a look at this here. Okay. Anyway, let's come back and talk about the actual cognitive services. And if you have more questions, feel free to ask in the chat, no problem. Okay, I will answer them in 1 or 2 minutes. Anyway, all of these devices, let's say that you have and this happens when you take the exam. Actually, when you take the exam, they will ask you to take photos and things like that. Okay, this is not exactly how they are doing it, but they are verifying if you are the same person as you were before. So they will compare your current photo with the previous photo you had on file, and they are actually verifying things around the room and things like that. You take a lot of photos. You also take photos of your ID or passports. and they will have things to process this. In most cases, I'm assuming that they will use for passports and ID tickets. They will use things like forms recognizer. Okay, I can't guarantee this. I haven't seen it, but if it was me, I would use it. But we'll talk about that a bit later. So first of all, you start with the cell phone, and let's say you want to take a photo of the person, okay, and then identify the age of the person, who's in the photo, one person, two people, etc. So you take the photo and you send the photo over to a server that you have, the green one, let's say somewhere in Azure. Okay, why do you have this to a mid server? This can actually be something called API management in Azure as well. Okay, so that's also possible. But maybe you might have a server, let's say that this can also be a website or something like that. So something that's in the full control over in that you have for full control, and that's all of these systems here will actually authenticate to this in some way, but they will not authenticate using the keys that Azure Cognitive Services provide you. Those you should keep for yourself. You should not share those keys with a cell phone app or anything like that, because if you get hacked, people will use your accounts to do a lot of processing, and you will get billed for that. So that's completely wrong. So anyway, you ask things into a server, and then that server will send it over to Cognitive Services somewhere here in Azure, and then from that, the cognitive services do their magic. They process the information. We'll see that in 1 or 2 minutes. And then they will send it over to your server, and your server processes the information. This will be JSON format in most cases, or if not all. They will process the information and then send it back to one of the devices that you have here. Okay. One special case is the IoT case that I was mentioning before, because some of the cognitive services you can actually deploy as IoT edge modules. Okay, so you only have a small subset of those things there, things like language understanding services and things like that. But then again, these are things which are small enough in terms of model that you can store in an IoT device. Okay. Anyway, by the way, you can also do machine learning in an IoT device as well. Machine learning predictions. You shouldn't. Well, technically, you shouldn't. You could, but you shouldn't do machine learning training in an IoT device, because it just takes too long and the device does not have the capability for that. But you should, and that can take hours or even days, but you should take machine learning predictions in the device, because that can take microseconds. So that's very easy to do. It doesn't require a lot of CPU. Okay. Anyway, we'll try to use machine learning. We'll try to use cognitive services and give you some examples on how this can be done. But then, anyway, you can try some of these examples by yourself. Okay. Anyway, you probably remember that we had uh, the car theme. So there's a car here. I will get back to this in a second, but first of all, this is not new. If you need an Azure account, you need to go to azure.com, click the get started for free and get an account. This is obviously very easy. You probably heard this in all of the previous sessions. You get 30 days for free with a few services, but cognitive services, most of them have a free tier. That means that even after the 30 days, you will still be able to use them for free. Okay, and then you go to something like this, which is your Azure Portal, and you can have access to put a lot of cognitive services into this. So for instance, I can go to the plus sign and say that I want a cognitive services for face. Okay, so face recognition, and then you can just say create. And this is the same for most of the cognitive services. You create a resource group, you select a region, you give it a name, and then you select the pricing tier. Let's choose free. Okay, and then you define some permissions, etc. I won't go into a lot of detail, but if you're just trying this around, just choose all networks so that it is public. Not good for security, but from the point of view of just trying this out, this is the best option. But then whatever application you use, probably you want to use this inside of a specific virtual network, so that you can add security. Then you can just click review and create, and that will generate all of these services. Let's go to the dashboard here. That generates all of these services that you have here, and then you can use some of these to play around with. We'll try to have a look at some of these just in a second. But anyway, let's go back to the Azure portal. Sorry, the Azure websites, and we can go here to Products, AI, Cognitive Services, and the things I'm going to try out don't even require an Azure account. You can try these out without having an Azure account, okay? So again, let's go here, and I'm going to copy paste this link for the chats. You can try along while we're doing this if you'd like, okay? And we'll start with vision. So we have things like face recognition, computer vision. One is to detect faces, the other one is to identify what's in images, like scenery and things like that. Custom vision is very specific, in which you have to provide the images and then click a button, generate the training, and do it. I'll get back to that. I mentioned forms recognizer just before, so let's get started with this one, okay? And then we'll talk about the video indexer in a second. Okay, so anyway, forms recognizer is very easy. So let's say you have something like this, okay? So I have AdventureWorks, invoice number. So I have some headers, invoice for Contoso, etc. Address something, and these are the key value pairs. You have some table. These only have one item, so invoice number something, something, something. So all of these are from left to right here. But this only has one single item, so it's a bit more difficult. We'll come back to a different table. This one is a Contoso Cafe, okay, obviously fake. And you have receipt, credit card. By the way, there are some predefined ones that you can already use, or you can use this yourself. By the way, you should try these out using the lab. So if you decide to take the labs for AI-900s, AI-100 or 102, you should actually do the labs for this and try these out with actual things. But in any case, if you'd like to try them just here, this will be okay. Anyway, a few examples of this. So you have a date, you have a phone number, which shows up here, but they will actually know that this phone number is American, and the address here as well, and time, subtotal, etc. And please notice that the date is slightly different. So this is American date. This is ISO date. Okay. You also have JSON content here. So all of these, they will actually explain where you see all of the things. So main and streets. So the bounding box for this main word is actually here. They actually detail where they find each of these things, okay? And even if this is skewed or something like that, they will still detect all of these things, okay? Anyway, a few more, okay? So all of this you can actually see in details in JSON formats, or you can generate a table based on this if you'd like, okay? But let's just go to the first one slightly, okay? And this one actually says, besides the headers and the footers, this actually says that the items here, which are Z something, okay? So Z something, invoice something, these are actually here. A small important thing that to mention is that this does things by columns. Okay, so you can see things by columns, and then, but obviously you have the JSON here to see all of the details here. But you see things by columns. Honestly, most things in machine learning are actually stored by columns, not by rows, and this makes more sense for processing and things like that. Anyway, this is Forms Recognizer. Let's have a look at another one, which is the face. Okay, so let's go to face. And for the face one, we have some faces here already. Now let's change to detection model number 1. This one, model number 2, detects a bit more faces, even if they are to the side, etc. So it is a bit better, but the results are not that complete in terms of detail. Okay, so let's say detection model 1, gender female, age 25, color of hair. This is the predominant color of hair. Brown is 99%, so makes sense. Okay, you have things like blur, no blur. There is blur outside, but not in the face. Okay, the face part is the important part to detect here. And then noise, there isn't any noise, so this is a nice, professional photo. Okay, you also have face landmarks, so pupil, nose tip. So the actual nose tip here will be in this location. Okay, I haven't confirmed it. I'm assuming this is true. Anyway, head pose is the position of the heads, up, down, left, right, tilted, etc. And a few more things. So she doesn't have any mustache. Okay, maybe she could a beard, etc. Okay, so no problems there. Oh, glasses. Okay, reading glasses as well. Okay, some makeup, etc. Oh, and importantly, emotion, happiness. So there is a happiness sign. Okay, if you have more than one person, you will have a face ID for the first person here. I'm not sure who this person is, but it says gender male and it says emotion, happiness. So I'm assuming it's this guy here. Okay, and if you go a bit down, you have another face ID here, and this face ID actually says um, okay, facial hair, nothing, age female, 32. So I'm assuming this is the one. And then, and by the way, happiness is equal to true. So this is, oh, sorry, this is fine. And finally, we have the kids, which, let's see, kid, gender male, age 1. By the way, ages up to 5 are very difficult to predict, okay? So assume this might not be correct up to age 5 or something, or over 65 or something like that. This is actually very difficult to predict. But anyway, the kid is mostly neutral, or if you prefer, surprised, because the kid actually has the mouth open, so maybe surprised about the photo or something like that. So you can detect all of this. All of this is actually JSON content. Oh, sorry, too much. This is actually JSON content to find, but I don't trust these photos that Microsoft puts here, so I would like to try ones for myself. And these are images that I usually use for this. Everyone knows this guy. Everyone likes him. This is a very nice guy, really polite, really nice, and the age is actually wrong. But then again, we don't know when the photo was taken. Plus, the guy probably had a lot of, surgeries and things like that. So it can be different. But the important thing is anger is equal to true. This is the normal state, so this is normal. We know that this is true. If we go to a different one, if we go to a happy one, we'll see that the happy one is actually here as happiness is equal to true. Okay, very rare, but a sighting of happiness. Okay, there was maybe 2 years ago the last in-person event that there was for MCT summits. I wasn't here for this photo. I left that day already, but there was a photo of a lot of Microsoft certified trainers going around, and all of these are detected. Okay, so we have Elias saying he is 52 years old. This is completely wrong, by the way. Let me just mention. However, let me just say that the amount of pixels you have for each face is actually very low. So this is very difficult to be able to say the exact age for any of these people. Okay, so I'm not gonna say that this is correct. However, feel free to try with your own photos. This is very easy, and you can try this yourself. One more for first face verification in this case. And we talked about Trump, and let's just compare if these are the same people. And then let's say it's angry Trump, and let's say it's happy Trump. Let's just confirm if this is the same person. Okay, and 83% yes. So I'll say 75% is enough for me to assume that these are the same person. Okay, I haven't tried with twins yet, but I will try at some point in time. Actually, no, I'm not going to do this one. I'm actually going to do this one, and let's try with Borat. This is Borat. This is the character of the actual actor, of course. So Sasha here is actually 8% compared to Trump, so not a lot. This makes sense. And let's actually try a Trump lookalike from a TV program in the United States, and you actually get 55. These are very similar. It has nothing to do with the smiling or the angriness. You saw that with different runs. It has all to do with the face landmarks. But still, even as much as you do makeup and try to draw things as best as possible to adjust things, these two people are still going to be the same. The nose is different. Even though they did a lot of work to make it look it's the same. They chose the right person to do this, etc. but still it's not the same. And then one of the ones I usually put here, oh, so wait a minute, so give me a sec. Browse. One of the ones I usually put here is there was a rumor that this woman related to Trump in some way, and because she looked the same, but and she's actually 39%. So I would say it is a possibility that she's related directly or indirectly to Trump. Okay, you can try this with your own photos if you'd like. Face only works with actual people. So let me just go here for a second. Face only works with actual people. If you try with cats, if you try with anything else, or if you try with, um, let's say, vampires, that will actually not work. Vampires don't work. Even on detection model number 2, this will still not work. Okay, just to get you an idea. Anyway, let's talk about computer vision. And computer vision is also very easy to do. Okay, so anyway, um, we have, let's say here, vehicle, land vehicle, subway, train, etc. So this is what we are seeing here. Even if it is difficult, this is correct. Text, train, etc. And then text, people waiting at the train station. This is actually correct. People are actually here. But then again, I don't trust these kind of things from Microsoft. So I will upload my own and then choose operation, analyze image, browse, and then let's try. This was a photo that I've taken myself. Okay, so this is not fakeable. Let's call it like that. This is the Eiffel Tower. This is me. I'm a person. So this is correct. So texts, tower, confidence, 86%. Sky is in the background. So also true. And skyscraper, kind of. Yeah. Anyway, a man wearing a costume with Eiffel Tower in the background. So this was properly detected. Okay. The costume part is weird, but then again, if you try to find my age from this, they will actually say that I am 2 years old. This is not correct. Well, maybe mentally age, maybe I am 2 years old, but real age, I was about 38, 39 at the time, maybe. I don't know, something like that. But then again, I am covered. It's difficult to detect, and I felt very fat because it was very cold and raining and snowing and things like that. So it was very cold at the time. Anyway, one more maybe. And if you go here, and this is the Tower of Belém next to me somewhere here in Lisbon, and you can try to find that it is a castle. That's correct. It is outdoors, yes. There's going to be water around, also correct. Lake, not really true. This is actually a river very close to the ocean, and it is a tower, that's correct. But then they say a large building, Belém Tower in background. So this is, they actually, the text is not very good because they assume that there was a building and the Belém Tower in the background. It's all the same thing, but still, uh, this is all the same thing in any case. Anyway, let's try a few more things. Try this yourself, by the way. Let me just try this with Sasha here, and you probably know Sasha from a lot of making fun of Trump supporters. And this is okay, dressed, etc. And then you have Sacha Baron Cohen wearing a suit and tie, smiling at the camera. So we know that this is the right person. However, if you do browse, and I'm trying this for the first time, this is the wrong person. This is not a real person. Okay, looks the same, but they just detect a man wearing a suit and tie, holding his hands up. This is not the same guy. Okay, this is a look-alike that you have from somewhere. Looks exactly the same, but not the same guy. Plus, shouldn't have the British flag here because supposedly Sacha Baron Cohen or Borat as the character is not from the UK, from Kazakhstan or something like that. Whatever the character is supposed to be. Okay, one last one. Okay, and we can try golf car. Actually, license plates. This is a Portuguese license plate and plate, etc. A lot of information, but I want to read text. So give me a second. So let's say license plate again. And Julian is saying also uses the Belém Tower as well to demo AI. Good to hear. Okay, this is a nice place to go. Next to it, there's a really good food, some pastéis de Belém, Belém pastry. So that also very good. Here, 4572XQ. So this is correct. 04 for the year is on top because this is from top to bottom, and 06 is actually at the bottom. And this part here is actually um, difficult to detect. These are wrong. So this actually says DGV, but even if you are a human, you'll find it hard to read from this. This is a D, this is a G, this is a V, and I know only because I live here. Okay, otherwise. OBV would be a fair assumption. Okay, so no worries. It's not machine learning's fault. It's actually the license plate's fault. Okay, so not that bad. Okay, so these are some of the things you need to know if you need to know the AI certifications. But let's have a look at custom vision. Custom vision, there is no demo for this at this moment, but all you basically do is you add a whole bunch of images. Let's say that these are cans of drinks, okay? You add a whole bunch of images. You click here to do training, to do the custom training, and then that will actually spend 1 hour or whatever time it takes to generate a model, and that model will provide the predictions later on for you to detect these kind of cans in a different image. Okay, so this is not a generalized scenario. This is a very specific scenario. You do this kind of thing for industrialization or any other kind of thing. You can also do this if you really want to. For anything specific like a vending machine, like here would be a good example, but even industrial, to actually see things like apples and things like that that go through a conveyor belts when you are sorting out the apples and eggs and things like that. If you see something that looks bad, you want to remove it, and then you do IoT, you remove it to the sides because it looks bad or something like that, so you don't want to send this over to packaging to sell to clients. Custom vision is nice. You can put custom vision inside AI. You can use custom vision inside applications in Android, iOS, etc. So that's all very easy. You can start from here. And this one, you also don't need to know machine learning. You just need to be a developer. That's as simple as that. You also have a video indexer, and for that I actually started already. Just go to videoindexer.ai, okay? And then you need to log in. You can use your Office 365 accounts. Okay, so that's actually very easy. And then you go to any of the sample videos that you have here. You can upload your own, by the way, but then you can go to some sample videos and actually see some of the things here. I will go through this very quickly because we don't have that much time. We have about 10 minutes. But in any case, let's go.
Well, good morning.
Okay, so the actual sound is not very interesting. Okay, feel free to try this yourself. This is about 3 hours, but we have Scott Guthrie here. So every time that there is a black marker here, that Scott Guthrie is actually here. Okay, and every time that there is a blank, he's actually not here. Someone else is here. So let's take this guy here, Kilu. So he's actually here when Scott leaves. So if you click here, you'll actually find him, okay? And if you try Yina, she's actually here, so let's try a random, okay. She's probably speaking at this moment. She might not be visible here, but she's actually speaking, okay? So you can find them. You also have Scott Hanselman, might show up here at some point in time. So let's say, by the way, yeah, here we go. Here's the guy. Okay, so this is very difficult because just if each pixel that I click on is about 5 minutes in length, so I might not find the person. So anyway, you have some topics, and they will detect where these topics are. So these topics are covered here. Business is actually most of the things. Cloud storage is only here, etc. Technology, big data is actually in these places. And then you have keywords. You have things like Azure functions. They talk about them here. They talk about bots here specifically, etc. Then you have some names, okay? Sorry, labels. And then some labels, you have things like face, coats, roads, etc. So let's say coats. And then coat, you actually talk about coat here, no idea. Well, she does have a coat, but that's a bit of a stretch. You have dog. There was a cat somewhere and a fish. I can't really remember where these were. But smoke was also here somewhere. Smoke was also there somewhere. Healthcare, maybe healthcare, we can find this anyway. Uh, Financial systems, etc. Maybe they're talking about healthcare. Um, anyway, the dog, there was a dog somewhere, but it's very difficult to find. But let's say park. Park is, I think, a bit easier. There was a park in San Francisco or something like that. Something in the ways of that. So maybe we'll see the park here just in a second. Anyway, we have some things about San Francisco, and these are actually in the same place. So when you go here, this demo, this one or the next to this one is actually about San Francisco. No, this is actually Florida. Maybe the one before was San Francisco. I don't know. But anyway, you can actually find all of the locations. You can see all of the people. So Scott Guthrie is actually mentioned. He's actually speaking, but someone maybe mentions Scott Guthrie. Some other people, Donovan Brown for DevOps, big guy for DevOps at Microsoft. Maybe they are talking about, oh, here we go. Here's the guy. He's actually here. And then brands like Microsoft Visual Studio. We talk about Visual Studio a lot here, so that's obvious. But let's say OneDrive. So talking about OneDrive actually shows up here. Talking about Siemens, Apple. I don't know. Some of these might be here. You can try this out if you like. Anyway, emotions. So we have most of the emotions are easy. But let's try this one, which is fear. Now, if you look at this, she's actually looking down. There was a point in time where she looks to the right, or she actually looked to the top, and that's a bit fearful, but she actually looks down to the right as well at some point in time. Maybe someone is saying, oh, like this. Maybe she's detecting something like you're running out of time, actually, like I am right now, and she actually becomes a bit afraid because I have to hurry up. Okay, so you can actually find that there. There's also angry somewhere here. Okay, I have no idea what angry is, but maybe it has to do something with the voice, something like that. They are actually happy, but maybe the way that the voice is being handled has some angry reactions or something like that. Anyway, you also have scenes, plus you also have the timeline, so that's easy to get as well. You have the details of the timeline, so you can see in real time what's actually being said. And you can download all of the things here. Okay, you can go to JSON, download all of the things here. You can also download all of the artifacts, which actually includes all of these images here in the bottom. Okay, you can download all of them and make it very easy. Okay, so let me just stop this one. Okay, otherwise we won't have time for everything. And okay, so one other thing that's also very interesting to use. Let's go here to language. But before that, let me just remember that you can use face verification to detect the face of the person when they are trying to open the door. Remember, okay, make sure that they only open the door to the right person. You can detect license plates. You can detect things in front. You can detect all of the other things going on here. You can even use video indexer to detect things that are happening. So that's all very easy, obstacles, etc. Okay, let's move on to the next one, and then we'll quickly talk about language understanding. So language understanding is very easy as well. So the idea here is that with very simple logic, you can say, actually switch all the lights to green. So suddenly these lights turn to green. But basically there's something called an intent, which is turn all of the lights on, and which is the action that you want to take. And then an entity, or if you prefer, you call it a parameter. It says color, and then turn all of the colors to green. If I say yellow, in that case, actually they turn to yellow, but they didn't say turn. They didn't actually focus that because the default, I'm assuming, is yellow. Anyway, floor lamp to green. Now I have two things. I have which light it is. it's the floor light, and also color is equal to green down here, okay? So I can actually use these intents, which are actions, these entities, which are parameters, and I can create a whole bunch of phrases that look a lot like this, okay? And then I detect, I mark floor, I mark green, etc., switch on, switch off, etc. I detect all of this, and then I assign these in a big list. You don't have to be anyone in IT to do this. Anyone can do it. And then you click a button to train, and it generates a model that responds in a personalized way to this. This is how you build bots, okay? Anyway, there is a bot that you can add here, okay? So we can just go here to bots. So web app bot. I mentioned the Power virtual agent bots, okay? But you can go to web app bot and create one here if you like. So I'm not going to do that, but basically give it a name, location. Just make sure all three locations are the same when you have them here. Bot template, this is important. You go to C#, just choose basic bots, or Node.js if you prefer. You need to add a language understanding services account here. So you should add an account here. And then app service plan, this is the same as a website, so you need to create one as well. And then you can just say create. And the result of that should be something that looks like this, okay? So you have the examinator bots. By the way, you can download all of the content here if you'd like. Okay, so it's actually very easy. Just go here. Okay, so they changed this again. Okay. Yeah, so they actually changed this again. Download bot source codes. Okay, you can download the bot source code from here, and you can test this online. Just make sure that you don't have anything blocked here, because this uses third-party cookies and websites, okay? And then from here, I can actually go and say, book a flight to London, okay? And then they will ask you where you're traveling from, and I would say Lisbon, okay? When would you like to travel? Let's say yesterday, okay? I really like to say this. It is a valid date. You should validate it in the end, okay? So please confirm, yesterday, day 9, today's day 10. So yes, this is correct. So you say, yes, thank you very much. I just connected to a database or web service. I booked your tickets. Here's your tickets. Here you go, okay? You can program this in the bots as well if you'd like, okay? So this is very easy. Anyway, we're almost running out of time, so let me mention a few other cognitive services which are available. Javier is already here looking at us. Okay, welcome, Javier. Please allow me 1 or 2 more minutes to finish. Okay, anyway, language understanding is easy. Q&A maker is also very easy. You have basically 2 columns, questions and answers, and then you program questions, you program answers, and these are your basic frequently asked question chatbots, okay? If the question looks a lot like the question or the answer, they will provide for any of this. Text analytics is also very nice. Okay, let me just go here very quickly and show you that you can have some texts. You can detect sentiment analysis. You can detect all of the entities like organization type, email, etc. You can detect all of this. And you can even get links to Wikipedia. So look on the bottom left, you can get linked to Wikipedia from this. 1 or 2 more cognitive services. So translator, Bing Translator is obviously much better than Google. Trust me on this. Okay, it is. Speech to text, text to speech, the usual things that everyone has. Speech translation, real-time, amazing things. Okay, this does amazing things with real-time translation. This is actually used a lot in Microsoft products. Speaker recognition, you upload some samples of voice from me, from Javier, from Julian, etc. And these will be in a database. And then if someone speaks, they will actually detect which person is speaking. This is actually what's being used in Video Indexer that I've showed you just before. And there's also web search, but these are now part of Bing APIs. Autocomplete is something that's very good. Just go here. Autocomplete is very good. Spell checker is also very good. Everything else is about Bing searching. Okay, and finally to mention detection, decision, which is things like content moderator, which allow you to detect things like profanity, things like images with adult content, etc., and also to detect personal identifiable information in phrases, etc., if you have to moderate a blog or if you have to moderate social network, something like that. Anomaly detection actually detects anomalies in in any kind of values you have here. Yes, they are using machine learning in the background, but in reality, you just use this as a developer. You use REST APIs, so that's easy. If you have some kind of problems, they will detect it and they will let you know. And you also have Metrics Advisor, which also analyzes what's actually happening over time and gives you recommendations about some of the issues you have over time with this. The final one I have here is Personalizer, which is basically a way for you to integrate with your application, some customizable way for you to show things to the user, which is their preference, etc. Okay, so let me just finish with the slides. Javier, I do apologize for the delay. Okay, so a few examples for speech to text, text to speech, the bots, language understanding services, Q&A maker, text analytics, translator, anomaly detector, metrics advisor. All of these are things that you can also use in cognitive services. Obviously, I mentioned that there is also the DP100 course for machine learning. You should see that as well. Personalizer is great for applications. Play around with this in your own applications. Some people do this custom, they create their own, but you have a really nice managed service to do this for you. Having said that, no real time for questions. Javier is actually here, but I am fully available for, actually the no is true, okay? But Javier is here for the next session, so I'm gonna eject myself. And if you have any question in the chat, I'll actually write down in the chat. So thank you all very much for being here, Javier. This is your floor. Thank you very much, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you,
Thank
André.
you very much, everyone.
Really nice